Do you have an interest in local history, enjoy interviewing and have some time to volunteer? Then talk to us about getting involved with our heritage projects. We're bringing history alive on your local radio station. Call Gravity FM for more details on 01476 573300.
I'm Ela Watts and I'm here talking to Ian Cox, who is the chairman of Navenby Archaeology Group. Thank you very much for inviting me to the site today, Ian.
You're welcome.
What makes this site so special here in Navenby?
Going back several years now, bits and pieces have been found along Ermine Street, and Ermine Street is of course the main road from London to York. We are just off of Ermine Street itself, so we have found remains from the Green Man Lane right down to the site where we are now, which is about 900 metres of settlement, pre-Roman, Roman and post-Roman. We took part in an excavation on the west side of Ermine Street back in 2009. That was organised by a local company, Pre-Construct, for the developer of a housing estate. They invited us on. While we were working on the site, the owner of this property came across and said he keeps digging up pieces of pottery. Would we like to come and have a look? So we did. We carried out a geophys, a survey of the site. We also did a trial pit and found in that excavation material literally in the roots of the grass turf, and we went down about 12 inches and found an extraordinary amount of remains that hadn't been disturbed through modern agricultural practice. So we have a pristine site of buildings. I can't say any more than that because we don't really know what the buildings are that we've got at the moment.
So what are the steps, Ian, starting off with an archaeological project like this?
Well, it really comes down to the membership. Back in 2011, we were looking at something to do because we'd run out of our current work programme, and membership said they would like to do a dig. So we approached the owner again, who was very receptive of us coming onto the site, and said yes, absolutely. So we then had to go through the process of sourcing funds, and the best place that we found was the Heritage Lottery Fund. We obviously had to make an application. We had to do quite a lot of work. It took us the biggest part of 12 months to get all the figures together. We then approached them with our bid, and we were successful. So we were very pleased with that. We've got the total amount of money to work the site. Having said that, we have to also put in comparable activities ourselves by our own efforts.
So it's match funding?
Match funding, yeah.
What's the biggest expense you have on a project like this?
Really having the professional help on board. Part of the remit was that we needed to have a professional archaeologist. Gavin Glover from Allen Archaeology has been here right from the word go, so that everything that we take out is done correctly, it's recorded correctly, it is stored and conserved correctly. Without his help, we wouldn't be here. He goes over the remit. He's great. He speaks to the public in all terms, from the technical, if people want to know the technical details, to just very easy to understand language.
Well, now this is the fun bit, isn't it, the dig?
Absolutely, yeah.
But there's a vast amount of work goes on before you actually start digging, isn't there?
Yes. You have quite a lot of paperwork. As I say, it took nearly a year to get our bid together because it's something we haven't done before on this scale. We've applied for funding for previous events, but this one we had to really get quite watertight because there was a time limit on the work. A group of us worked hard on getting that together, and at the moment, touch wood, it's working out more or less to plan. Can't dictate the weather, but the weather's been kind to us so far.
Did you have to put some historical research in as well to convince people to fund you?
Well, the only historical research was really the quantity of work that we did and the finds that we found out on our little exploratory dig here, and built things up on that. When we first looked at the site, we did a geophys, which is, if you like, an X-ray of the ground, and we found both in this plot and the one immediately next to us had a lot of traces of something in the ground, which really excited us. And that was proven correct when we did the exploratory dig. And that's as much of the research, if you like, for here to do. Because having taken part in the dig on the opposite side of the road, on the west side, with pre-construct in 2009, we knew that there would be buildings here. It's both sides of the road, the high street, if you like.
So what artefacts have you discovered?
A lot of pottery, ceramics, bones, bones that have either been broken or cut, so whether they were butchered on site.
Human bones?
No, sorry, animal bones.
Oh, right.
Everything from a frog to a horse. But basically they are large pieces of bone. Most of them have been either cooked, cut or broken. So we're not quite sure what the process was, whether it was a place where people used to eat or like a butcher's. We just don't know. At one time in its history, and we were actually looking at Roman occupation possibly for 200 to 300 years or more.
You've always had a good butcher's in Navenby.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
So what do you hope to discover? Is there anything else that you think, yes, we'll find something like this?
Well, we always keep our fingers crossed that we're going to actually find the key for Lincolnshire, but obviously that's not going to happen. It's really a working settlement, a town that served the military travelling along the highway, Ermine Street, halfway between Ancaster and Lincoln. We were just looking for a cafe, if you like, so that the soldiers could put their feet up at some stage and then carry on with their journey.
A Roman snack bar?
Yes, absolutely.
So who owns the artefacts and what happens to them?
Well, the owner of the property, they belong to him, but he has agreed that they then go to the museum. Obviously there's going to be an awful lot of material, and they were going to the archives at Lincoln. We have already a slot allocated to us, and they will go there when the specialists who've seen all the bits and done their reports, they will then be what they call archived, put into the Lincolnshire archives. But the long-term hope is, of course, the community has a new hall, the venue, and long-term they hope to get some display cabinets in there, and there's a strong possibility that the items housed in the archives will be able to come back home and be on display in the village for people to see and study.
And what's your most exciting discovery then so far?
Oh, crikey. Everyone's an exciting discovery. I mean, from the smallest bead to pieces of armour. We've found pieces of the little plate mail that you get, lorica squamata, which is like the scales of an armadillo. They overlap, very flexible. And apparently they were worn by auxiliary military in the 3rd and 4th century. So we know we had a soldier come along and slipped his top off and sat there and left it to be repaired or forgot about it.
You're getting complete stories out of everything you find,
Oh,
aren't you?
absolutely. From the little beads, the site seems to have been really a service site proper, with not too many women involved, because there's no pieces of jewellery, and we would have expected brooches or things like that, but there's been absolutely nothing, which we find amazing.
Gavin, you're the professional on this site.
I am, yes. So
it all looks pretty professional to me.
Yeah, that's very much a compliment to those that are digging, which isn't me, I might add. I've done very little digging on the site. All the digging's been done by a combination of Navenby Archaeology Group and other volunteers, so other people from just the local area that have volunteered to come and have a go, really. And it does look really professional because they've done a great job. Yeah, really good job. I'm really proud of everybody, I think. And it's a great site. It's really lovely. Lots of, well, there's at least 3, probably 4 Roman buildings out there, one built on top of another, effectively. As soon as one's fallen down, they've just built another one in the same spot. And so it does make the site look really nice, because you can see the wall lines and everything. And yeah, it's a beautiful looking site, and indeed all these amazing finds, literally thousands of bits of pottery and bone and all sorts of other juicy little bits in there as well. Yeah, it's fantastic stuff, really. I'll tell you about this little bit that we've got here. As you see, this it's only a tiny fragment of pot, but unlike all of these, which are fairly sort of utilitarian bits of pot, you could, I mean, a bowl like that, use it for whatever you want. Quite frankly, it's almost the equivalent of IKEA pottery, I suppose. You can kind of buy it in, but then you can really do whatever you want with it. A bit like this, rather different. If you look at this, obviously that's the outside of it, very smooth, and it's sort of got a red coat on it really. On the inside, you see, it's not that at all. It's got lots of little bits of grit, which are all sort of bumpy and rough, and that's because they're deliberately put in to create a rough surface on the inside, so that it would have formed part of a large shallow dish or bowl, something called a mortaria, and for cooking purposes, if you were making, well, let's say a pesto or a sauce or whatever, you could put your herbs or whatever it was that you were using as ingredients into this dish, add a bit of water or olive oil maybe, or whatever, and then you grind the stuff against these little grits that are in the pot with a rubbing stone, basically, to make a paste. And so they're very much, very distinctive of cooking, of certain types of cooking anyway, and certain dishes that you might be preparing. So nice little things really, because they are an indication that people are undoubtedly cooking on the site. A lot of the other stuff, you find it in all sorts of different contexts, you see, but not so much with this. It's much more task specific. So really useful little bits for us to find, to really fill out that picture of what's going on site.
And this is all very methodical, isn't it? Everything seems labelled and organised.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the key to any excavation, really. If all you do is take the turf off and then just sort of dig a big hole, all you'll end up with is a big pile of mixed up finds at the end, which really tells you relatively little. But if you approach it in a more methodical way, so you label up all your finds, you're really looking for the different layers in the ground, be it layers of different earth, and where ditches have been dug and then filled in again, or where walls have been built and then buried because obviously they've fallen down and then earth has just built up over the top of them. All these things get split up into different contexts, we call it, and then all of the finds that come out from each of those contexts get labelled up all individually and are sort of looked at as groups that way round, you see, and it tells us a lot more then about what's going on the site, and we can chart really the evolution of a site. And that's the idea, that's what we're trying to do, so that we don't end up with a big mixed bag of finds. Instead, we've got finds that will give us information about what's going on the site in a much more controlled manner.
Thank you, Gavin. You're a member of the Navenby Archaeology Group.
Yes, I'm a member. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Navenby Archaeology Group.
All right, what's your name?
Arthur Treen.
How long have you been doing that?
What, being Vice Chairman? Well, I was Chairman before I was Vice Chairman, and before that I was Vice Chairman to the previous. Malcolm Smith was the Chairman in those days. So I've gone round the houses and back again.
You can't escape, can you?
Yes.
So how exciting is this dig for you then?
Fantastic. This is the second time we've opened a dig, you see. The first time was about 2009. I don't know if Ian told you about that, but we opened the dig about 2009. We've done some work by, first of all, we field walked a lot of this side, because the whole issue was that the west side of Ermine Street had been looked at, dug, various other things that happened to it, but nobody had ever looked at the east side of Ermine Street. So we field walked east side of it, found lots of bits of pottery that were Roman, some medieval, but mainly Roman pottery. We did all that. Having done that, it was then felt it was a good idea to geophys it, so we got a very compliant geophysser, if you can call him that, in to do it, which he did do. And then, having done that, we couldn't actually get onto the fields because they're used obviously for different cereal crops and various other things all the time, so the farmers can't really let you get onto the fields. But we eventually thought, well, if it goes that far, perhaps it comes this far down at Ermine Street. So we geophysed this particular paddock, and looking at the geophys, there were some anomalies on it which made it look quite interesting. So we came here one day, about 3 or 4 of us, including Malcolm Smith. We found out exactly where we thought we were going to dig. We went down 15 centimetres, and there we found for the first time Roman remains. We didn't really know what they were, but they were Roman remains, and it wasn't no more than 6 inches down. We had just opened the dig up, and we really didn't know what we were doing. But fortunately, there was a very tame archaeologist at Bishop Gracetest College who came along, and he and some of his friends and various other people came along and did a lot of work with us, and they did it for free. And then after we'd finished the dig, of course, we had to fill it all in again. And we didn't think we'd ever be able to open it again, but Ian and one or two other people from the group spent a lot of time and a lot of energy, and they got 50-odd thousand pounds, and we reopened the site. Thanks to Ian and other people, and Lincolnshire Heritage gave us the money, and so this is what you see now.
Right, thank you very much.
That's all right.
You look very busy.
Yeah, and just cleaning some pottery and bone and what's come out of the ground that they found from digging.
You've got a toothbrush there.
Yeah, that's just to get all the dirt off, because it's quite old, so it's got a lot of dirt on it. So.
And you've cleaned all these pieces here?
Yeah, I've cleaned all these pieces. There are bits of bone and orange pottery, and then just other bits and bobs there.
So what made you get interested in this?
Well, my dad has a metal detector, and we went metal detecting, and then basically we just found lots of stuff, and then I got interested.
You got interested in archaeology. How old are you? Is that a rude question?
I'm 13.
13?
Yeah.
You're so young to be doing this. And you're handling all these Roman pieces of pottery.
It's quite interesting.
It's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fascinating.
So is this what you're doing for the summer holidays?
Yeah.
Are they a nice bunch of people? They look after you?
Yeah, they're really kind.
What's your name?
Erin.
Erin. Who am I talking to now?
Callum.
Callum. And what are you doing, Callum?
We're putting together a pot.
This is like a 3D jigsaw. This is exciting. How do you know which bits go where?
Because they kind of fit in, and their colour kind of matches the bit next to it.
How old are you, Callum?
10.
What are you sticking it together with?
Tape.
Surgical tape.
It's surgical tape. Does it have to be a special tape?
I think it's because it's quite strong, but also it will leave less residue on the pot.
What sort of a pot is this? What do you think this one's been used for?
Uh,
The Roman equivalent of a Coke?
maybe
No, I don't think it's a drinking vessel, is it? What do we think it is?
it might be something to school feed or...
Thank you very much. Now, sorry, who are you?
I'm Sandra, I'm Erin and Callum's mum.
You're helping Callum put this pot together.
We are. It's the first time we've had a go at putting the pots together today, so it's a bit of a jigsaw, as you said. But it's quite interesting to see it coming together.
It's almost complete, actually, isn't it? You've got a complete pot.
I think there's only going to be a few pieces perhaps missing, which may turn up in one of the other trays because they're all numbered, as I heard you talking about earlier. We've just done this lid this morning, which was almost intact anyway. We've just fit it together, and then this one's a little bit more tricky.
It looks a bit more tricky. It's not a lid for that pot, is it?
No, but Gavin interestingly was telling us this morning that at some point they were all built to the same specifications so that they were interchangeable. So this big pot behind you, Gavin actually showed us that the size of the top of the rim there, this actually will fit on there. Though it doesn't go with it, it's a bit like your Pyrex dishes that all, all the lids fit things, which I found amazing.
Found here, this big pot.
Yeah, they found that. I wasn't here when they found that, but yeah.
Well, that's phenomenal.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I'm speechless. That doesn't happen very often.
I remember since February last year. Just before I retired, I was looking at something in the area that could keep me going. And history and archaeology was something I've always been interested in. I went on the internet and have a look and see what there was, and found Navenby Archaeological Group, and looked what was on the website. It looked interesting and quite an active group, so along I came to the meetings, which were very interesting. We get speakers coming along talking about all sorts of things to do with heritage and conservation and things like that, once a month. So that was February last year, and by September they voted me in as secretary. So
You're doing quite well.
So that gave
a
me something
meteoric
to do.
rise to fame.
That's right.
So that, Malcolm, that's how I come to find you working in a big black bucket with nag on it.
Yes, and slowly but surely spooning soil out of a big pot. So the big pot was excavated, and now I'm excavating the pot.
You have to do that quite slowly, do you?
Very slowly at the moment, because at the moment what I'm finding are very, very tiny little bones. I'm not sure what they are. We found the jawbone of something, and the jawbone's around about a centimetre or centimetre and a half in length. So it's some very tiny animal, but the amount of rib bones I'm finding, it could well be an adder or something that got in there and never came out again.
So you'd recommend an archaeology group?
Yes, it's good fun. There's a lot of friendly people, certainly at Navenby. And then we get several of the group from Grantham as well, because they come along. We've got 3 or 4 members who are members of both.
Is that because of the excitement of this dig?
Some of it is, yes. They've joined to help us with that, but there's others joined before this. It's fascinating, and most people get a good buzz out of it. So when you're going back to prehistoric time and things, there's so little to find. But here, as you can see, much later period, so they've actually physically got things there, and as you can see, it's so well preserved on this side. It's wonderful. So we're having a good time. It's not so much fun when the rain's pouring down and it gets a bit muddy and you're just scraping mud.
That's when you show your dedication.
That's right, indeed, yes, but it's been a wonderful time.
Thank you for talking to me. I'm sitting on the edge of this amazing dig. Who am I talking to now?
It's Joan Lawton.
And what are you doing here?
I'm taking off a layer of soil. We don't know whether it's a burned area or what it is, to try and find out what's going on, and we hope that will tell us what age that layer is.
How many digs have you worked?
This is my first one.
What an amazing place to start.
Yes, quite.
Are you a member of the archaeology group?
Yes, I've joined at the same time as starting on the dig. I'm learning such a lot as I go along.
What actually is this, do you think? I've been told it's a sort of a snack bar.
I think that's probably it. The pit over there is where the big bowl was, which we think might have had water in it. That makes sense because it would keep it cool and it would keep it steady, so you could just take a ladle full of water out, and you sort of think, well, that's where they came for a drink and a snack. And we found quite a lot of pottery, some big chunky pottery was used for cooking, and other pottery that would be used for drinking and eating from. It would add it up to that, a little chef or whatever.
An early Roman service station.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So what does this dig mean for the local community? I know that archaeologists from all over are coming here. We've got some members of the Grantham Archaeology Group coming
absolutely.
over here.
And Lincoln.
And Lincoln
yes,
too.
Yeah.
So what does it mean for the local community?
Well, those who are interested, they don't have to belong to our group. Because it's a community project, people who live in the village who just want to have 1 or 2 days enjoyment, experience of working on the site, they can. And they can dig, they can sieve, they can wash, they can even mark and measure. Whatever they want to do, that is part and parcel.
So those are the skills that you want from your volunteers?
Yes.
But they don't have to have had any experience?
No experience at all. We will give on-site training, but before anybody comes and works on the site, as with most things nowadays, health and safety is a major issue, and we have to make sure that we do an induction with them so that they understand if anything goes wrong, what we need to do to stay safe ourselves, but also that we don't hurt one another. Sometimes that's quite challenging, yes.
You've got an event coming up, a public event.
We have, yes, on the 7th of September at the venue, which, as I said, is the new community hall. 11 o'clock till 4 o'clock. To come along, see a lot of the items that we've actually taken out. Some of the items won't have been processed, so there's an opportunity to wash them, to clean them, mark them, draw them, photograph them, and all those bits and pieces in the shade, out of the rain, just in case on that day it's raining, and they can have fun. There will be experts there, so they can actually bring things that they may have dug up in their own gardens and would want a little bit more information about. They can bring those along and discuss it with the specialists.
So at the public workshop there will be more artefacts than the ones that you've actually found here? Yes,
absolutely. Bishop Grosseteste will be bringing their roadshow equipment. That's boxes of artefacts that they've got, ranging from knapped flints that may be of interest to a lot of people, right through to 20th century artefacts. Brilliant setup. We've been making use of their laboratory over the last 12 months, learning more about pottery and how to do conservation and bits and pieces related to archaeology.
And if somebody actually wants to join the Navenby Archaeology Group?
Yeah, absolutely. They can. All they need to do is go on to our website, which is www.navenbyarchgp.org, and they will see our homepage, and there will be a contact button on there, if you like, to contact the secretary, who will send out forms. They can either join, or they can come along to our meetings and just see whether they like us. We're a pretty friendly lot. We don't chew many people up.
And spit the bones out.
Absolutely, yes.
That would confuse us.
Yes, right, yes.
So it's the considerably older Antiques Roadshow.
Yes, I think it was well before Arthur Negus.
What period would you put this site at?
Well, we've gone through the 4th and 3rd century. We appear to be going into a lower level, possibly 2nd century. But during the excavation, we have actually found pieces of Neolithic flint from a worked arrowhead, barbed, 2 little thumb scrapers, and some flints. It was a bit of a puzzle because they were actually on top of the Roman finds. And actually, talking to the owner, the site had been, in its former life, an orchard, a small orchard. And when the trees were removed, they were cut down, and then they were pulled out with the JCB. So the chances are they may have well been below the Roman items and pulled up through the roots, in the roots. Or it could have been that children don't change over the ages, and maybe they were the Romano Brits who, wandering around on the heath, found pieces of worked flint, brought them home and put them on the mantelpiece, and it was simple as that. Because we still do it. We go to the seaside and pick up shells and we bring them home. So why would they be any different then than we are now? So
some of these walls that you are excavating here, they're walls on top of walls?
Yes. It gets a bit complicated. I mean, one of the first walls we came across was a metre wide. And we thought, this is going to be a tremendous building. What on earth is it? But as soon as we took that course off, underneath there were 2 other walls going at slightly different angles, and also there was a cut into another wall. So it's a site that over the 400 years has been used repeatedly. Different generations converting it to what they wanted at the time.
Is this a peculiar feature to excavations in Lincolnshire? I mean, are we just particularly lucky? Because if you go to a big touristy excavation, it's a very long way down in the ground, and this is just there.
Well, it is, but actually we're still going down, so...
Well, you don't know how far it's going to go yet.
We really don't. I mean, you can see the site, we're down, what, 2 feet? And there's possibly
so much already.
Yes, and we could possibly go down another 18 inches, 2 feet. We still have 3 weeks' work to be on the site from here to October, and we expect to find more evidence. And it would be very nice, once we go under the Roman excavation, to even find Neolithic post holes and things like that, but we don't know.
So how long have you been working on this site?
We started in April. We've had 2 sessions, one a fortnight, one 3. This is the second long period, if you like, of 3 weeks. And we've had the odd weekend in between.
It's not round the clock because you're all volunteers?
We're all volunteers, yeah. There's only one paid person on here, and that is the professional archaeologist. The rest of us are here because we love it. Others are here just to get the experience and enjoyment. All ages. We've had youngsters from the age of about 5 upwards. Their eyes are considerably better than ours for finding the very small bits.
Let me just go through this event again, because I think you're going to get a lot of interest in this. Because if I've understood you, you can turn up on this day and actually get hands-on and do something.
Absolutely. It's free. You come in. It's all part of the lottery funding. They can stay for the duration, or they can come in for 5 minutes and disappear, but they can come in and actually do something with a piece of archaeology that is up to 2,000 years old.
Well, thank you very much for talking to me today.
You're more than welcome.
That's been so interesting. And the public workshop is on the 7th of September. It starts at 11 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. It is free to get in. It's at the new community hall in Navenby on the Grantham Road.
Yes, the venue.
The local history feature is brought to you by Gravity FM in association with Your Heritage, awarding funds from the National Lottery. See www.hlf.org.uk.